Welcome everybody to the Canada Science and Technology Museum's Google Hangout on Astronomy for Families. My name is Astronomel, and today we're going to be talking about the solar system. So we're going to do a few different activities tonight. At any time, if you have questions and you're joining us live, you can ask your questions through the Q&A app on the side of your screen if you're using Google+. If you're not signed up to Google+ and you are watching this live, you can use Twitter as well to ask any questions using the hashtag AstroQs. So it's written at the bottom of your screen here, hashtag AstroQs, like Astro questions. And we'll do our best to answer them here tonight. So we're going to talk a little bit about the night sky. Today at the Canada Science and Technology Museum, it's cloudy and it's snowing. So we won't be able to see the night sky with our own eyes. So we're going to sort of lead you through a tour of the night sky using some software. And then we're going to talk a little bit about a craft that you can make, this kind of fun solar system in a bottle, snow globe type of activity with all of the 8 planets in there. So you can make this at home afterwards as well, but I'll show you how to do that here today. So to start with, what we're going to do, I'm going to show you where you can find your star chart to sort of navigate through the sky with us. So this is something you can print out from the website. This is the star chart for February. There's one for each month. So we're going to show you on the Canada Science and Technology Museum's website where you can find this. So you can find them in French and in English, and this will help you find different stars or planets in the night sky. So here, we'll just do a screen share to help you find this, and then we can get started with our tour of the night sky. So here on the landing page of the Canada Science and Technology Museums, we can find some astronomy resources and star charts and activity templates. And if you click on that there, then you'll be able to find the monthly star charts. And we can find the anything from January to February, March, April, May. So today we're going to look at the February star charts. So you can click on it right here. And it'll pop up here. So you can see that this is good for January at 11 p.m., March at 9 p.m., or sorry, February at 9 p.m. and March at 7 p.m. You'll see all of the coordinates on there, and you'll be able to use this at sort of this time of year. Now, if you're in a different part of the country, so Ottawa is at 45 degrees north, and this is what we can see in the sky. But if you're at a different location in the country, if you're really far north or a little bit farther south, you can use our star finders down here and download one for the correct latitude. So either 25 degrees north, anywhere to 70 degrees north. And those are also good all year long, and they're good for any time of year. So those ones you can download and create yourselves. We won't make them tonight because we don't have quite enough time, but that's something you could do. So remember, when you're using these star charts and when you're going outdoors, just make sure if you want to see lots of different stars or some fainter stars, that you're in a place that's nice and dark. So maybe not in the middle of the city, but maybe if you're somewhere like out in the country or at your cottage, that might be a really nice time to take out one of these star charts and try to look at some things. So tonight we're going to switch over to some software, and I'm going to show you some things that you might be able to see in the night sky at this time of year, or at this time of year on any year. A lot of the time we can see the same constellations and the same things in the sky, but for tonight this is kind of very specific. So we're going to start by looking at something that you might have been seeing all of this week. You might see a lot of the time. It's a very bright star low in the horizon, and in fact it's not a star. As you can see on this image, it's actually a planet. So this is near the southwest, and this is Venus. The sun is setting right here in our landscape. It's about 5:30 on our software time. Right now it's more about 8 o'clock. So we're going to speed ahead a little bit, and you'll see that Venus is going to be setting into the west. It's going to start getting very dark. Mars will appear above Venus at this time of year, and the sky will start to get darker as the sun sets. So Mars and Venus follow the sun down over the horizon. And as you look up, a bunch of stars will begin to come into light. Well, we'll just speed it up a little bit until we get to the meat of the evening, and we'll look farther up into the sky to see something that many people can find. I can find this one fairly easily, and that's the moon. So tonight the moon is pretty bright. We're just going to zoom right into the moon and see what's going on. So it's almost full, so it might look like it's coming close, and that's because on February 3rd, next Tuesday, it'll be a full moon. So if it's clear where you are, you can go in and try to have a look at that. It'll be very bright, lighting up all of the snow, kind of like it is in our landscape here. And there we go. So there's a little, looks like a parking lot down here in this landscape. So we're going to go ahead a little bit, because in the east, we can see rising over the mountain is another planet, and that's Jupiter. And so this is around 7 o'clock at night. You'll start to see Jupiter. Late at night, it stays up pretty high. So we're speeding ahead in time. It's about 8 o'clock here, and Jupiter is right above in the east. So you'll be able to find this quite easily. It's very bright. It's a very big planet. And again, it's not a star, it's a planet. So we're going to zoom in a little bit to see what's going on. And we can see right away that it's not alone in the sky. It's got four moons orbiting. And actually, these are the Galilean moons of Jupiter. It's the four biggest moons orbiting around Jupiter. They were first discovered by Galileo in about 1609. He used his own telescope to discover these. It's Callisto is on the top, then Io, Europa, and Ganymede. And these four will orbit around Jupiter. You can see some of them crossing the path of Jupiter at night. They're very interesting to watch. Jupiter has about 67 moons right now, some of them unconfirmed, but these four are not alone. Jupiter has quite a few moons. And as we zoom in even more, you can see that Jupiter has many characteristics. It's got an atmosphere that's full of colors and clouds. And so Jupiter is a gas giant planet, which means that it's made up of gas. There is no solid surface that we know of, like we know of here on Earth. It's just gas. And so often, and we can't see it here, but sometimes you'll see pictures of Jupiter with a big red spot on it. And it is called the Great Red Spot. And that is actually a spot that's a hurricane, not a hurricane. Yeah, it's a hurricane, sorry, that's on the surface of Mars and of Jupiter. And it's actually getting smaller over the last few years. So astronomers and scientists have been measuring this spot, and it's been getting smaller and smaller, and they're not really sure why. There's not as much energy in the storm anymore, but they are sending, hopefully we get some answers soon. There's a spacecraft going to Jupiter that'll be there around July of 2016. So hopefully we'll get some answers from that to see what's going on with Jupiter. So you can see Jupiter for about the next month, and probably after that in the night sky. And so here we are, zoomed all the way out again, and I'm going to get a little bit farther out so we can really appreciate the size of the sky. And now you'll notice this looks a little bit more like what maybe you've printed out as your star chart that we had on the internet there. So on our website you can find a star chart, and it kind of looks like a big circle. And in that circle, you've got the cardinal positions. So here, west, south, east, and north. And so that's how you're going to find your way around the sky at night. Now, at the night sky, and especially on the card, we also have constellations. So here I've added some lines for you to see some of the constellations that people have thought of over the years that we use to navigate the sky. So if you look into the north, most of Canada, where we are today, can see this constellation here. Now I'm going to take this off again, these lines, because maybe some of you have seen this grouping of stars here. If any of you know what it is, it's the Big Dipper, and it's part of the constellation called Ursa Major. So you notice this here, you can kind of see it looks a little bit like a bear. So it's a big bear in the sky, and you can always see the Big Dipper at all times of the year in Canada. If you switch over to the other side of the sky in the south, you'll see maybe something else that's very recognizable, not the moon, but below it is the constellation of Orion. And in here we can see this is the belt of Orion, sometimes 3 stars in a row that are recognizable to people. So there's some pretty bright stars in there. It's very interesting. Again, you won't see the lines in the sky, but maybe you can recognize some things here. And using your star chart at home, you'll be able to maybe find some of these constellations from your own backyard. Even if you're in the city, many of these stars you'll still be able to see. Which is really great. So hopefully you can download your star chart or your star finder to be able to do this from home. So I'm gonna see if anybody again has any questions. You can please ask them in the Q&A app, or you can ask them through Twitter with hashtag AstroQs. So we're gonna continue on though to sort of where we were talking about Jupiter, and it's interesting because I have this ball here, and this is going to be Jupiter. So if the size of Jupiter, which is of course a much larger planet than this ball, but if it was all shrunk down into the size of this exercise ball, this big red ball, how big do you think the Earth would be? Do you think it would be bigger or smaller? Well, Jupiter is the biggest planet in our solar system, so the Earth is definitely a little bit smaller, and in fact, it's a lot smaller. It's about the size of this little ball here. So can you imagine? This is the Earth, we live here, and this is how big Jupiter is. So Jupiter is definitely a very big planet. Again, it doesn't have a hard surface, the planet, like this ball does. Jupiter definitely isn't bouncy, but so it's gas. So it's quite a large planet. And I don't know if anybody at home knows any of the other planets in our solar system, if they can name them. So closest to the sun, so we have 8 planets in the entire solar system, in our solar system. Closest to the sun is the smallest planet in our solar system, and its name is Mercury. After Mercury, we have another planet that's very similar to ours. It's Venus. Next to Venus is our planet, and it's Earth. So Earth is actually my favorite planet. And then after Earth, farther away from the sun, is a planet that's a little bit smaller. It's called the Red Planet. We've sent a lot of robots to it, and that's Mars. After Mars is the biggest planet in our solar system. It's got a big red spot, and that's Jupiter. Of course, we were talking about Jupiter earlier today. And then after Jupiter, there's the planet with the big rings around it, and that's Saturn. Saturn has tons of rings around it. It's very beautiful. And then after Saturn, we have 2 other planets that are gas giants. They're a little bit farther away and a little smaller, but they're still pretty big. And the first one starts with a U, and it's called Uranus. After that, we have the last planet, and it's called Neptune. So we have 8 planets in our solar system. Jupiter, which we looked at, is the biggest, and Earth is, of course, where we live. So we're going to create our solar system in a jar in this. So in this jar, we've got 8 planets. I don't know if you can see all of them, but we've created these. There's some string in here, and you can use it as a snow globe. So if you put some sparkles or some little bits in there, you can turn it around and do this. So what I'm going to show you, I'm going to go to the close-up camera and show you some of the materials that we used to make this. So I'm going to do just one of the planets today. And of course, it's going to be Jupiter. We've been talking a little bit about Jupiter. And so we're going to use, to make the planets, we have different sized styrofoam balls, or even pom-poms sometimes. So here's a smaller ball that you could use for one of the smaller planets. This is a pom-pom. I've used this one as Venus, because Venus has a bit of a yellow color to it. So anything that floats and you can decorate work really well for this this craft. So these styrofoam balls we've chosen because they float, and then we're using some plasticine here that I've kind of just molded into this shape. But you can buy the plasticine, or you can use Fimo or something that bakes in the oven, some Play-Doh, and use it that way. I didn't have any brown plasticine, and I would have used it for Jupiter because Jupiter is a little bit of a brown planet, as you saw. But I did have red and yellow. So what I've done is mix them together because I know that there's some cloud formations on Jupiter, and there's the great red spot. So I just kind of wanted to get some fun colors in there. So you can do this for all of the planets. And then you want to cover your styrofoam ball. So you'll just kind of cover it like this. And you can decorate this with things other than plasticine. You can use markers. Sharpie markers work sometimes, but sometimes they're hard to get off of your fingers. You can use Fimo, like I said, and then bake it in the oven. That kind of works. Or you can just use, some felt or cover it with some dough of some kind. So when you're almost done covering this, I'm going to leave a little bit of a space because we want these to hang in the jar. We're going to add some string. So I've left a little bit of space here. And I'm going to take some string, if find the end of it. So this is actually just some yarn. You can also use some clear string, like some fishing line or something. And you're going to cut it. And this is going to be the length of string that you put on your planet. And each of your planets can be different lengths of string. And I'm just going to cover it in plasticine. So this is another reason I use plasticine, because it works really well to attach this yarn to. So it's just white yarn, just regular white yarn. And now you have your planet here. And now I'm going to show you on the close-up camera sort of what you can do. So we've created a full lid of these. So you attach them to the lid of your jar that you're going to use. So I showed you the jars that we use. So I've just attached all of these different planets. Now this is another Jupiter that I've made beforehand, and I'll just tear it off here so I can show you how I did it. And all you have to do is attach a little bit of plasticine to the end and then stick it to the jar. And it works really well. It doesn't have to be pretty on the top of the jar because you're not going to see it at all. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets. And the smallest planet, 6 here, is Mercury. So I've attached just a little tiny bead to the top of it. So you can kind of use anything that floats for this. And then of course there's 2 other planets. Uranus and Neptune are a little bit bigger. But I'm going to show you how this works from the regular camera. So we'll move over to that one. And I'll show you how this then goes into the regular camera. So, sorry, into the regular jar. So here they're all sort of hanging. And you just want to make sure that these are all smaller than the mouth of your jar. So if this is your jar, this is just a spaghetti jar. You just want to make sure that they all fit in there before you get too far ahead. With Venus, what we've done is we've used the lid off a chip tube here, and you can cut it to size and then cut it and just place it around Saturn itself so that Saturn can have the rings. So you can use any type of recycled material. Just make sure that it goes into the lid of your jar. So you kind of want to cut it a little bit smaller. So now what we can do is fill this up just maybe about halfway or so. Actually, you know what I'm going to do first? I'm going to put this in. I've tried this lots of different ways. So if you fill it to the top first and then you put your stuff in, it's going to overflow. So just put your planets in first, very delicately, kind of one at a time. And so here I only have 6 planets, but I told you that there's 8 planets in the solar system. Uranus and Neptune are just going to float at the top. So I haven't attached them to the lid. It's kind of fun when there's things that are all around the jar. So those ones will float at the top. And I'm going to take this back here with me because I have a sink, and I'm going to fill this up with water. And this I can fill almost to the top. I just want to make sure that it doesn't leak and that it doesn't overflow. But I can put it all the way to the top. Oh, this one's really full. And then I'll come back and show you guys what I did. You can put some sparkles in there before you close it up. You can put some glitter, whatever you want. And then when you turn it over like this, you've got your solar system in a bottle. You've got some sparkles in there maybe so that you can see some snow. And this is what you've got at the end. So we see all of our 8 planets in the solar system, and you can put this as a decoration. This is the time of month or the time of year for it because it's very snowy. So now we've got 2 completed solar systems in a bottle. So hopefully you guys will be able to sort of recreate something like this. You can make our own solar system, which has 8 planets. You can decide to make your own solar system, which maybe has 10 planets, and you can make up a world of your own. So you can use creativity. You don't have to use the colors that we've used. Take your time and sort of have fun with this one. And hopefully it works out really well and you can learn a little bit about astronomy. I also hope that where you are tonight, maybe it's clear outside, you can go have a look at the stars, see some constellations, and sort of explore the night sky with your star chart, maybe see Jupiter. Venus is probably set if it's any later than 6 o'clock, but maybe you can see it the next time you're out. So thanks very much, and we'll see you all later. Thanks. This is the Canada Science and Technology Museum. Have fun.